I would say the term indoor bonsai has caused more people to stop with bonsai than to start with bonsai. So, without pruning, these are the roots that were in the pot. Horrible. Too wet, had a very, very bad winter, but look, there is new growth, so there's hope. Growing indoor bonsai. What are indoor bonsai and why do we grow them indoors? Hi, this is Jelle, growing bonsai, and today I'm looking at some of my tropical bonsai. Hey, good morning. I'm bringing out my tropicals. It is the first week of May and today is the day that I am bringing all of these outside. Yes, you heard that right. Indoor bonsai, outside. There is this misconception, particularly if you look at commercial nurseries. They sell trees and they say this is an indoor bonsai, giving people the impression that you can grow bonsai successfully indoors. Well, you can't really. Unless you're willing to invest in lighting setups, have a very, very bright living room, are excellent and have a green thumb. But unless you have all these conditions, you probably will run into more trouble than needed to grow bonsai. And in fact, I would say the term indoor bonsai has caused more people to stop with bonsai than to start with bonsai. Basically, what you do is you go to a store, you buy a tree, and they say it's indoor. You get an elm, you get a ficus, you get a ginseng ficus. You know the examples. You go to a big store, they'll sell bonsai and say it's for indoors. People put them inside, they put them on the coffee table as a nice decorative element. Looks nice. But it is still just a tree. It needs light, it needs air circulation, it needs humidity in the air. If you don't provide that properly, then the tree will slowly deteriorate and at a certain point it will die. Now many tropical tree species, such as this Raintree or the Jabuticaba or Ficus, cannot stand frost. And therefore in winter, if you live in a temperate climate where you do get frost, they need to go indoors. In fact, most of them prefer temperatures not going much below 10 Celsius for longer periods of time. And 10 Celsius, that is about 50 Fahrenheit. So if you have tropical species and you live in an area where the temperature does drop below 50 Fahrenheit for longer periods in time, or where you get frost, these trees need to be protected from frost and they need to go indoors. Hence the term indoor bonsai. Basically, they're tropicals that you need to grow indoors for several months in a year. It sits indoors all the way until April, May, and then you bring it out in the full sun. They need to be protected against the sun for the first 2 weeks. Otherwise, they will get a sunburn, just like you and I, when we go outside in the first spring. If we spend all day in sun, we get a sunburn, they get a sunburn. After that has happened, they can slowly be moved into the full sun. Go from dappled shade into half day of sun, into full sun. So what you can tell, new growth at the ends of the branches indicate that this tree is also ready to go outside. Of course, there's tiny little branches like these. They have died off over winter and I can prune these back. And I could do a full prune, but I'll do that later in the year. For now, I'll just let this push a little bit. So what you get over winter is that there's branches sprouting at the base of other branches. Remove those so it stays the tree stays nice and open and the actual branches have more power to develop. Also, the top can get quite heavy and there it is worthwhile pruning out the growing tips so that the lower branches, which I still want to strengthen because the lower trunk is still quite thin, get a bit more power. Of course, after all this is done, give the tree a nice rinse. They have been indoors for the whole winter. They might like to get a little bit of the dust washed off. This is a species that you cannot grow from cuttings. So Jabuticaba is always grown from seed. And the same for the Brazilian Raintree. I do want it to toughen up, get a little bit thicker, but I don't want all these heavy side branches. So a few of the upper branches I'm going to just trim back. Not too much, just to make sure these branches here in the top don't get too heavy, so they can keep on developing the lower branches and the lower trunks. But yeah, over winter, the top branches of course grew much better than the lower branches. So I need to correct a little bit. Just like that. That's pretty much it. Ready to go outside. These, they'll come off by itself. No worries. I can leave them on. Now, if we take a closer look at this Raintree that isn't growing all that well, you can see it is very wet. There is a lot of calcium growing here. There's a lot of moss. This is a pot that hasn't been draining all that well. On the one hand, that is because of course there's a dripping tray underneath, so it always sits in a little bit of water. On the other hand, it is because this pot is so shallow. Contrary to what some people might think, relatively speaking, shallow pots hold more water than tall pots. The reason is this has a perched water table. Actually, all pots have a perched water table, but this one has a relatively high one. Maybe I should do a video. Let me know in the comments whether you would like a bit more information about why this is so wet. Anyway, let's remove the old and dead branches and then get it into a little bit taller pot so it can grow for the rest of the season. It doesn't look nice, all that many dead branches, to be honest. All others are pushing. It just looks horrible. Get you in a different pot. So, without pruning, these are the roots that were in the pot. Horrible. Too wet. Had a very, very bad winter. But look, there is new growth, so there's hope. I'm going to plant this up and let it grow. There. All set for another growing season. There is another dead branch. Let's get that off. Water it well and put it in a warm spot. Maybe not in full sun for the next couple of days. This nice rain tree, you can tell here this branch has died off over winter. Probably got shaded out while standing inside, but I'm not concerned. There's lots of branches. This is just going to go out half shaded for the first couple of weeks, and then it will pop buds everywhere and I can prune it back a little bit more. Quite pleased with how this came out in winter. It does need a little bit of fertilizer. It's been a little unhappy, but overall not too bad for something without growing lights just in the living room. And the last one, the little one. Nice little buds here growing. I don't think I have to, but I'll have a quick look at the roots to see whether it needs a repotting. And then it is also ready to spend the season outside. This cutting has pretty good roots. They're all in the same place. Now I'm going to plant them up. Roots spread out a little bit like this. And just put it in a pot. Trim back the roots maybe so that they fit the perimeter of the pot. And that's all I'm going to do. Yeah, that's nice. Lots of water, dust gone, fresh air. Pruned, repotted, watered, showered, all clean, all ready for spring. I'll add a little bit of fertilizer and I'll just leave them for the next couple of weeks. Move them slowly, slowly into more and more sun. Some have been growing really poorly, some have been growing really well.